Hello, everybody, and welcome to Haiku Talk. I'm your host, Ben Ga, your friendly neighborhood haiku poet, and today we're going to be taking a look at a piece from the latest issue of Acorn. It's the spring 2025 issue from poet Joyce Clement, and it's a fun, vertical, one-line-ish poem with the first word, or first two words, of each suspended drop. I'll give you that much. Each suspended drop. It's a wonderful piece. Looking forward to talking to you about it. And until then, you know what time it is. It's time to sit back, relax, grab yourself a tasty beverage, and let's haiku. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Haiku Talk. Let's get right to the poem. The poem goes like this. Each suspended drop holding its own morning glory blues. Each suspended drop holding its own morning glory blues. Such a cool poem, and cool to see the format of this being vertical, having some spaces in there, and it really adds to what's happening in the poem. So this poem does follow our fragment and phrase format, with the phrase being the opener of each suspended drop holding its own, and the fragment being Morning Glory Blues. Morning Glory Blues. Very cool. So let's go on ahead and take a look at this poem, break it down in sections, because I can't really do it line by line because it is vertical. And this is a technique that you can use. And not only is it vertical, there's only one word per line in that vertical arrangement. So we'll just do this, I guess. We'll do the fragment, and then we'll talk about the phrase, and then we'll talk about the spacing, and so on and so forth. So when you encounter a poem like this in a journal, and it is, as I did, you do see it, and you're like, you automatically know that you're in for something a little different, and so your mind readjusts automatically. And that's not something you get when you hear this out loud. It's only something you see on the page. And so it's really using that vertical space in an interesting way, and you're like, oh, what's this going to be? How is this going to work out? And so that first grouping, which is our phrase, goes like this. Each suspended drop holding its own. Each suspended drop holding its own. Now, what I like about this is that this big phrase holds together without any spaces in it. It's our phrase. It tells us a lot of information. We know that it has been raining or has rained, or there has been wetness about, and there are, you can see each drop a suspended drop. And for me, and this can be different for everybody, and that's the beauty of haiku, but for me, when I think of each suspended drop, I'm watching that drop kind of suspend down from the gutter of an overhang. I'm looking out the window. I'm watching this happen. I'm looking through the window, seeing each suspended drop before it happens. And it's holding its own. So it's holding itself as it's, and for me, that's why I take it to like an overhang, a gutter, or something I'm looking out at. That it's a suspended drop, it's suspended, but it's holding its own. So it's holding itself to this thing before it falls. And so I'm able to take note of each individual drop that happens. Because they are forming and they are dropping. They form and then they drop. Form and then they drop. They hold its own. And so I get this tension of a raindrop being suspended and holding its own, but yet also knowing that it's a drop, because drop is drop. You know, it is a definition of a raindrop, but rain drops, it falls. You drip drop, and so I like that tension in that phrase. There's a lot happening there, and immediately, like I'm looking, it puts me in a space where I'm engaging and watching this moment happen. And then we get to that phrase, morning glory blues. I'm sorry, the fragment. We get to that fragment, morning glory blues, morning glory blues, which gives that phrase even more context and color. Because now when I'm looking out the window, watching this drop happen, this suspension, this formation, and then dropping, holding its own, not only is it holding its own shape, its own grip on the gutter, but it's also holding its own morning glory blues. So the morning that's happening, each drop contains its own view of the morning glory blue. And that's a beautiful moment when the morning glory blue starts to happen. I mean, you could say morning glory blues, it could be flowers or morning glory flowers, but I'm thinking it's the actual daybreak when morning is starting to happen and you go from dark and then into the blues, and it's a glorious thing, a morning glory blues. And to call attention to each little drop holding its own image of the morning glory blues just it's an amazing little moment. You have to be very, very aware of your surroundings and very dialed in to what's going on around you to take notice of something like this and to call attention to it and to revel in the beauty and wonder of this thing that's happening that you happen to discover, happen to bear witness to. And then to write it, Joyce, to write this poem in this way so that it's almost like the phrase is that drop holding itself to the gutter. And then as you get to the fragment, the morning glory blues, it breaks free and it falls down before you. And as it breaks free and falls, you still see the morning glory blues reflected in each little drop. Oh, it's amazing. And it's such a moment that I get such joy out of this. And this is a good example of how, using this format of the single line, vertical line, broken up the way it is, enhances the poem. The poem makes more sense and is much more active and alive through this structure. And, our poems, when we write, they don't have to always be 3 lines. They don't have to be 1 line or 2 lines. We can play around with the format, and as long as what you're using, how you're forming things on the page makes sense and gives more meaning to the poem, or it marries up nicely with the poem like it does here, it's perfectly okay. So it's good to keep those things in mind, that there are other options for us as we write that might serve our poems, serve those moments very well, like we see here. And it's a cool thing. And I'm glad I was able to get it on the page here on the screen. I guess it's on this side, so where you can see it. I was a little worried that I wasn't going to be able to squish it in there and have it still be readable, but it works. And was really excited to share this piece with you. I hope you all have enjoyed it as much as I have. It's certainly something to take in, to remember, to bookmark, to jot down, is put this in your haiku toolbox as a format to play around with and explore with. Again, where it makes sense for your poems, and that's a cool thing. Also, just the fact that when you get into reading and writing haiku, and you really find yourself allowing yourself permission, giving yourself permission to really pay attention to everything that's happening around you and find wonder in it. These little things start to jump out at you, and they're important. This might seem like an insignificant thing in the big structure and scheme of the world and big problems and big ideas and whatnot, but no, this is real. This is something that's important to take notice. The beauty all around us, that's happening all around us. If we lose sight of that, then we've lost sight of our souls, our reasons for being here, our enjoyment and engagement in the tactile world around us. So don't be afraid to write and to experience and to pay attention to these moments and to share them with yourself, with your friends, through journals, with the world, because we all need moments like this. And definitely, I know I'm going to be remembering this when the next time I have some rain dripping from the gutter, especially if I'm up at sunrise, but any time of day, really, to pay attention to those drops and what's happening in those drops as they start out the gutter and boom, break free. Wonderful piece. Thank you all again for tuning in for another episode of Haiku Talk. I hope you're able to find some space in your lives to pay attention, to take notice of the little beauty and little bits of wonder that happen around us every day. Thanks. Tune in next time. And until next time, cheers, everybody.